Chapter 14. Thrashing up Nalanchi. I will have to trouble Master Feng from now onwards. Sima Yu said, looking at Feng Jixing. Although Master Mu's actions greatly displeased her, she was nevertheless also thinking that since she had never studied in the academy before, joining the new students might not be that bad an idea after all. This is the key to your room. Feng Jixing said, tossing a key over to Sima Yu. Key. For all my students, I require them to reside within the academy. I know your grandfather is a respected general of our country, but you will still have to stay here. You can go out during the day, but you must be back in the dormitory by bedtime. Only when we are not out on a mission, can you then go back home and sleep once a week. Feng Jixing explained. Although she did not fully understand the rationale behind it, Sima Yu obediently complied. All right, you can go back now. Move your belongings into the academy tomorrow and we'll officially begin our classes the day after. Feng Jixing continued. Sima Yu bowed and took her leave after that. Since she had no more classes, she thought to make good use of her time to catch up on her training. But before leaving, she thought she should at least inform Sima Yu, but she was stopped before she could even reach the classrooms of the seniors. Sima Yu, stay right there. Sima Yu raised her head and stared at the person standing before her, blocking her way forward. He was from the same bunch of people who had thrashed her up the other day. She remembered this one person among the many people who had beaten her up at that time. He had been the most vicious one. Seeing him once more, she could almost visualize the scene when the previous owner of the body had been beaten to death by them. Her eyes darkened and she said in a chilling tone, "Get out of my way." The person standing in her way was Nalanchi from the topmost family in the capital city. The Nalan family was one of the mightier houses in the Feng Ming kingdom and their ancestors were almost reaching the level of the revered spirit paragon and hence, they did not think much of the Sima family. After all, in the Sima family, only Sima Lai was powerful, and only he alone. While the Nalan family had a whole bunch of powerful individuals. The confrontation between Nalanchi and Sima Yu quickly attracted many people to crowd around them. Although they feared offending Sima Yu, their curiosity for the show unfolding before them won out and they all were thinking they would not get into any trouble if they just watched from the side. When Nalanchi saw that so many people had crowded around them, he said with a taunting laugh, "Sima Yu, are you going to look for Morangan again? Are you still going to bother him like this? Haven't you learnt your lesson from the thrashing we gave you? How could you be so shameless? As a man, why are you sticking to Morangan so persistently? You're so outrageously shameless." Nalanchi's words elicited a roar of laughter to erupt from the surrounding crowd. Their eyes were all on Sima Yu, and the mockery in their eyes was plainly obvious to see. Sima Yu stared at Nalanchi, her eyes seething with anger. Nalanchi was not intimidated by Sima Yu's angry glare. He got people to bring him a bench and he put one foot onto it and said, "If you want to pass, I will allow it. Here, crawl yourself through under here and I will not stop you." As he spoke, he pointed at the space under his raised leg. Sima Yu continued to glare at Nalanchi and did not say a word, but just stood in her spot, unmoving. If it was the previous owner of this body here now, she would have immediately flown into a rage. Why? Not going to crawl? You don't want to or do you not dare to do it? If you are so gutless, that will also mean your so-called General Sima is just as spineless as you are. Ha 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 ha. Nalanchi looked at Sima Yu, fully intent on ridiculing him. Never in his wildest dreams would he have foreseen what unfolded next. He had not expected that Sima Yu would suddenly charge towards him and swiftly grab his robes and hold him down. Next, Sima Yu quickly gave a huge kick into Nalanchi's groin, and a shrill scream tore out of his throat before he fell over onto the ground, curling up tightly into a ball. Not a single person there had expected that Sima Yu would suddenly retaliate. No one had seen how Sima Yu had come to suddenly appear right before Nalanchi. By the time they were able to react, Nalanchi was already writhing on the ground. It was thought that Sima Yu would stop at that, but Sima Yu jabbed a knee onto Nalanchi's back as Sima Yu knelt, and with a grab, Sima Yu twisted Nalanchi's right arm behind before giving it a sharp tug. A loud crack could be heard and a scream suddenly tore through the entire academy grounds. "Your little lord here has no time to play with you today. Do not appear before my eyes ever again, or I will beat you to a pulp every time I see you." Sima Yu stood up calmly as she got up from Nalanchi's back. She gave him another 2 sharp kicks before he slowly turned and left. Everyone was utterly shocked and they were all dumbfounded for a long while. Was that the same Sima Yu who was well known to be timid and weak, and perceived as nothing but just a lusty and infatuated moron? The news about the ruckus that had happened before the seniors' classrooms spread quickly throughout the entire academy. Not a single one of the students could believe what they heard. If the ones who brought them the news had not sworn and pledged upon a myriad variety of gods and deities on the authenticity of the news, no one would have believed a word of it. In a tower not too far away, 2 men were observing the commotion and one of them was the very same man whom Sima Yu had met just earlier, Feng Jixing. That is one ferocious little one there, Feng Jixing said with a big smile when he saw Sima Yu's moves. But he could not help but to cringe when he remembered where that first kick had landed. What made you agree to let him join your class? The man beside Feng Jixing asked him. Just intuition, Feng Jixing replied. See, didn't he just show you that he is nothing like what the rumors said about him? The speed that he moved at earlier when he attacked. Phew, I am really curious about him. Adding to the fact when he saw me earlier, he had not displayed any signs of infatuation or the sleazy lust that those rumors mentioned. It's up to you. Since I managed to get you to come, I'll leave all these issues in your hands to handle. The man said. Headmaster, do you really trust me that much? Aren't you afraid I'll lead those students astray? Feng Jixing asked, looking meaningfully at the other man. What is there to be afraid of? Don't I know you well enough? The headmaster walked away from the window and sat back into his seat. He had just been discussing some things with Feng Jixing earlier when he was dragged to go to the window to witness Sima Yu beating someone up. Ha ha, if you're not afraid, then I have nothing to fear. I'll leave now and go see which are the unfortunate students that will be ending up in my hands. Feng Jixing said. Your class consists of a bunch of the most gifted kids we have among the entire batch. Take it easy on them. Alright, I'll try to. I will make sure they have an unforgettable time here. Feng Jixing immediately left the headmaster's office after saying those words. Before the classrooms, Sima Yu went to look for Sima Yula after giving Nalanchi the 2 kicks. And before she reached the classrooms, she suddenly saw Sima Yula rush out from his class and he didn't even see Sima Yu whom he had just passed. Fourth brother, where are you rushing to? Sima Yu quickly reached out and grabbed her brother by the arm to ask. Little Yu, what are you doing here? When Sima Yula asked in shock when he saw Sima Yu there. I came here to find you. Sima Yu answered with a smile. You were running so fast, where are you going? I heard you got into an altercation with Nalanchi up front, and it even escalated into a fight. I was running over there to see if you were hurt. Sima Yula said. Sima Yu was beaming happily as she replied. Fourth brother, rest assured. I am not hurt. I gave Nalanchi a good thrashing. Really? Of course. I'm right here before you, aren't I? Sima Yu said. That's good to hear. Sima Yula finally heaved a sigh of relief and then went on to ask. What did you come here for anyway? Oh, I came here to tell you something. Sima Yu told her brother about her being demoted a grade and that she would also be boarding at the academy. Then, she continued to say, I intend to go back and inform grandfather about it, and I will move into the dorms tomorrow. Chapter 15. The First Advancement. Feng Jixing. I've heard that he's quite a powerful figure, he's very well known. Sima Yula shared thoughtfully. Well, since you've already made your decision we'll leave it at that. Come, let me send you back. There's no need, I'm not a child anymore, I can go back on my own. Bye. Sima Yu waved her hand awkwardly and quickly turned to leave. Sima Yula watched the departing back of Sima Yu as he let out a small sigh. He felt that ever since the last trashing, this little brother of his has really become more sensible. Moreover, now he could cultivate, he may catch up to him very soon. If he wanted to continue to be able to protect him, he has to work harder. A flash of determination could be seen in his eyes as he turned and walked back to his own classroom. Sima Yu wasn't very familiar with the academy as she followed the main path and directions of the signs and found herself standing before the majestic main gate once again. When she saw that the entrance was full of people, she thought back on how this was the second day of selections. The next one, Wu Yangfei. The examiner shouted out towards the group in front of him. At this time, within the group, a young man came to the front and followed the examiner's instructions and put his hand on the crystal ball. Sima Yu watched with interest and saw that when Wu Yangfei had poured his spiritual energy into it, the crystal ball emitted a red and green glow. My god. He actually has dual attributes. This time, our academy has a double-faceted spirit master. Great. Ha ha ha. The examiner was ecstatic when he saw the reaction of the crystal ball. He couldn't help but laughed out loud and bellowed to the person beside him. Go tell the headmaster that we've discovered a double-faceted spirit master. Soon, as if summoned by the wind, a man swiftly arrived, and from the memories, Sima Yu recognized him as the headmaster of the academy. Where is our new student who is also a double-facet spirit master? He asked as soon as he arrived, and he saw the examiner pointing excitedly to Wu Yangfei. The director flashed a large smile and walked up to Wu Yangfei and greeted him. He then guided him into the academy. Sima Yu could not help but sneer. This director really was quite a character. When he saw that she was trash, he had on a sour face, and now when there was a genius presented before him, he blossomed into a smile that made her irk. The examiner soon called for the next person, and she watched on and soon found that the selection consisted only of this one round, which was a crystal ball test. Upon injecting their spiritual energy into the crystal ball, they would be able to see their attributes. The deeper the color, the higher the talent. If the crystal ball reacted like how it did to Wu Yangfei just now, it was an incredible reaction that garnered respect from everyone. She also gathered from everyone around her was that in this selection, there were no other double-faceted spirit masters. After a while, she no longer felt any novelty in this and turned to leave when she heard gasps and loud exclamations from behind her. My god, there's actually a tri-faceted spirit master. It's really 3 colors. We actually got to witness this moment. This time there was a huge outburst from the crowd. The people started shouting out loud exclamations in shock and disbelief. There hasn't been a tri-faceted spirit master in the academy for hundreds of years. What's more, just before this, a dual-faceted spirit master was discovered. The examiner was panting in excitement. This year, they've just discovered a dual-faceted spirit master, and moments after, a trail-faceted spirit master. He could not help but pinch himself to determine if he was dreaming or not. Sima Yu turned and saw a lone figure that was not affected by all these bustle and excitement. Instead, she stood beside the crystal ball and watched the people around her who were excited for her. She looked as if she was watching a spectacle and as if the matter had nothing to do with her at all. She was very detached. She stood there expressionlessly. Nothing could be seen on her face. No pride, no amusement, no joy. Sima Yu could see that she harbored endless loneliness, and also found a trace of hatred that was hidden well within. She felt Sima Yu staring at her, and she turned to look, expecting to see the same crazed fervor as the rest. Instead, she saw a pair of calm and clear eyes looking back at her. They stood far apart, but their gazes locked, and they were at this for a full half-minute until the girl retracted her gaze and turned to look at the examiner and asked, "Excuse me, I've already passed, can I go in now?" Of course. However, yours is a special case, so you don't need to go in like the rest. Wait here and another examiner will come and guide you in. We have a special arrangement for you. The examiner quickly answered. All right. That person gave a superfluous answer and turned to look at Sima Yu again. However, she found that he had already left, leaving only the back view. Sima Yu returned to her home and had intended to look for Sima Lai immediately. However, she was told that he was in the palace at the moment, so she could only return to her own room and continue reading and cultivating. Last night she felt that there was progress in her cultivation, and she believed that she was just a few steps away from becoming a full-fledged spirit master. At that time, she would finally be able to bind that ring that her father had left behind. After all, having an interspatial ring was much more convenient. She had warned Yunyu and Chun Jian not to disturb her under any circumstances, and had also locked the door from within, ensuring that no one would interrupt her during this crucial period. She sat down in meditation as she concentrated on sensing the surrounding spiritual qi. It was now much easier to sense the surrounding spiritual qi than before. The book that she had read earlier was a book that she had casually picked out, which coincided with what she was looking for, as it was a basic guide to cultivating for spirit masters. Sima Yu concentrated on the red orbs of light and slowly guided them into her body and gathered them in her lower abdomen. The multi-array of various colored orbs were all dancing around her. However, only the red ones could enter her body. At the same time, the box emitted a glow from within and assisted in her cultivation. When Sima Lai returned home and heard that Sima Yu was looking for him, he went over to her courtyard. However, when he arrived, he could feel the fluctuations in the surroundings and knew that she was cultivating at the moment, and he called Yun Yu over to ensure that no one disturbed Sima Yu, and he left her courtyard and went back. It's really true. She can cultivate. Sima Lai felt exhilarated as he walked towards his courtyard, unable to suppress the smile on his face. Sima Yu was furiously cultivating, and this time round, it was only after 2 days later that she woke up. She felt refreshed and as if her whole body was rejuvenated and a warm stream was flowing within her. A gentle energy was circulating throughout her whole body with her meridians. Her eyes snapped open and she felt as if her whole body was enveloped in a warm glow. She looked around and saw a small star was sparkling. I'm finally a spirit master. Ha ha ha, I'm at the initial stage of a spirit warrior, but nevertheless, this proves that this body isn't trash. Right after removing the poison, I can already cultivate. What's this? The box was unlike previous times that once she stopped cultivating, the light dispersed. This time, resplendent rays of various colored lights poured out of the box. She couldn't help but reach out to the box in her stupor. Once she picked up the box, the lights all disappeared, even the soft glow that enveloped it dissipated. She curiously opened the box but found nothing out of the ordinary. Only the same 3 items that were in it before. There's nothing strange in here. What could be the one that caused those lights to appear? She muttered out loud in puzzlement.